y'all, it's Amanda. Welcome back to my channel. Today I want to talk a little bit more about something I talked a little bit about in the last video, and that's why a Pokemon Showdown style team generator for VGC would actually help VGC and make it more accessible to people to play. So stick around. Okay, so before I get into what exactly it might look like if we build a Pokemon Showdown style team generator in VGC, first I want to talk a little bit about where is the skill in VGC. When we talk about esports, we typically want to know, like, what are the skills involved to succeed and perform at the top levels of that sport. And in VGC, it's kind of interesting because there's two different places where skill really comes into play. Right? There's the gameplay itself, and then there's building a team that performs well against the meta. And some people will do one or the other or both, but not everybody has to sort of take part in both of those things. So gameplay skills can really be improved by just playing more games with your team and learning how opposing players are most likely to react to it, right? The more games we play, the more likely we are to know when our opponent is going to fake out one of our Pokemon. Which Pokemon are they going to fake out? Are they going to protect this turn? If we can guess those things ahead of time, then we can adjust what we're going to do in our turn and really build momentum for us and put us in a better position to win. And likewise, team building skills can be improved by playing more games with your team, but this time learning how the team specifically performs against the meta. So is it hard countered by a really popular Pokemon, or does it hard counter a popular team archetype that's all over the meta? Right? And then we can kind of go back and forth to the drawing board, tinker with the team until we feel we've sort of maximized its consistency against the current metagame. So we've learned that skills in VGC are primarily built through playing games, whether that's analyzing our own personal gameplay or analyzing the performance of our team against our opponents. What is Showdown? Before we start talking about put it in VGC, what is it? Well, it's an online battle simulator that allows users to very quickly build teams exactly as they want them. You just pick your Pokemon, you pick their items, abilities, movesets, stats like EVs and IVs, as well as natures. And then once you've built that team, you can sort of battle against other players in an online simulated environment. Typically, it's used by people who either can't afford the current Pokemon games to play on them, or people who want to test out new team ideas before they spend the time to build the team on cartridge. Because as we all know, building a team on cartridge can be time and resource intensive, and we don't want to waste time building a team that is not going to perform well, right? So we'll test it out on Showdown, and then we'll move it onto the cartridge. So currently Showdown allows VGC players to kind of cut down the time they spend in team building their team building skills, because they can quickly change their team and sort of go back and forth on whether they want their Pokemon to be like this or that, and, you know, kind of tinker with it before they build it on cartridge, right? It's very easy to make changes on Showdown. It's very easy to say, oh, I don't want that Pokemon, I want this Pokemon instead. So that's not so much of a problem. The problem is when you decide that you want to move onto cartridge to play in the official VGC format. When that happens, it can sometimes take a long time to build that team on cartridge. For example, if I need a 0 IV Calyrex Ice for my team to be competitive, let's say it's a hard Trick Room team, it could take me dozens of hours to obtain just that one Pokemon, not to mention all of the time that I need to spend building out the rest of my team on cartridge. And that time sink that I'm having to put into obtaining a specific Pokemon with a specific IV stat for my team, it's not increasing my skill level at all. It's mindless grinding. I'm sitting there and I'm catching the Pokemon, I'm checking its stats, and if they're not what I need, I have to reset and do the whole thing all over again. Right? That's mindless. It doesn't increase my skill level. It doesn't do anything but gatekeep the community to only the people who have that amount of time to invest, right? A lot of people just don't have that kind of time to build a team for an official VGC tournament. If you're an adult, you likely have a job you have to go to pay your bills, put a roof over your head. If you're a child, you have to go to school, and then when you get home, you have to do homework, right? Everybody has things in their life that keeps them from putting that amount of time into Pokemon. And forcing that to be a requirement to build certain types of teams puts an artificial cap on those people who can play without really weeding out people who can't perform at a high level. You're just weeding out people who don't have time, not people who don't have skills. Alternatively, even if those people do still find a way to play, they may choose teams that are not optimal specifically because they don't have the time to grind for a certain team. So for example, they might go ahead and just use whatever Calyrex ice they have. And then in a mirror against an opposing Calyrex ice, they're going to lose in Trick Room because they don't have the minimum speed. They have some other IV on their Calyrex ice instead. So basically what I think would be really helpful is to sort of divorce VGC play from the Pokemon games. Build a Pokemon Showdown style VGC platform that users can then use to generate a team in the same way they do on Showdown, and then play against opposing players on a ranked ladder type of deal. Now, these Pokemon definitely should not be allowed to be transferred out to the games themselves, right? We still want to maintain that casual experience for people who just want to play a Pokemon game and beat it casually. But I think that something like that would be honestly really fantastic and open up VGC to a lot more players, which would then give us even more creativity and diversity in our team building. So as I see it, there's kind of two different modes of thoughts in the VGC community, right? There's the people who want to see more creativity in VGC, more people using unique, interesting Pokemon. Interestingly enough, the low ladder on Showdown actually contains a lot more interesting and unique teams than the lower levels on the ladder in Cartridge, because the barrier to play with those teams is so much lower. It only takes a few minutes to put together a new team and start trying it out. So people are more likely to want to try out new things and be a little unique and creative and off the ball with their team picks just to see if it works. And then on the flip side, there's the people who want to see a more stable meta. They don't like it when the meta is constantly changing too fast. It can be hard to keep up. You're constantly having to create new teams, which, as we've said, can be resource and time intensive. So when we look at those people, if we look at the high ladder on Showdown, it actually looks very similar to the high ladder on Cartridge. This is because the teams that make it that high up on the ladder are the ones that consistently perform well against the established meta. So adding Showdown to VGC would not really change the highest levels of play as far as the meta goes. I don't foresee it disrupting it significantly, maybe just at the lower levels, but at the high levels, I would expect that the meta would unfold exactly the way that it would on Cartridge if we did not have some sort of Showdown style platform. So that's kind of what I would like to see from the future of VGC. What does it look like now? Well, everything about a Pokemon that you've caught can be changed, except you cannot lower the IVs of your Pokemon or set them to anything other than the best maximum value of 31 through hyper training, right? Everything else can be changed. You can change your Pokemon's ability, you can change its movesets, you can give it different items, obviously, you can change their EVs, you can change their natures. Obviously, the materials to do all of this do require some grinding, but overall, not a ton of grinding to do these things. The main bulk of time spent in building a team is if you need a Pokemon with specific IVs that are not best. Okay, so if the biggest problem is just being able to lower IVs, what if we just added new tools like a 0 IV bottle cap or some sort of process where you can set the IVs to a specific number, like with EV training, with vitamins and things like that. We could absolutely do that. It would cut out a lot of grinding for low IV legendaries, and it's honestly probably the thing that's most likely to happen in Generation 9 with Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. But honestly, at that point, once you've given the player all of the tools to make the perfect Pokemon, what's the real difference between playing VGC in a traditional Pokemon game and playing it on Showdown? You have all the tools you need to make any Pokemon exactly what you need it to be for your team, so why ask players to grind up these resources at all? If everybody has access to the same level of materials, the same level of change to their Pokemon, why bother putting this time gate on it, you know? Is any Pokemon really that special if you can change everything about them to fit them to the mold of your team, right? That's one of the cases that people make against a Pokemon Showdown style Pokemon generator for VGC, right? Won't it make my Pokemon less special if you can just generate any Pokemon you want? Well, people already do that, okay? People already gen Pokemon in for tournaments because they don't have the time to build them themselves, or they might reach out to their community, and then that gives players with a bigger platform more of an advantage because they can sort of outsource the building of their team. So these things are already happening, right? If you are of the mindset that somebody else not putting the same amount of time into their team as you put into your team devalues your team somehow, your team's already being devalued. So I don't think that's really necessarily a concern here because that's happening anyway. So another case might be, why bother playing the game at all if I can just generate whatever Pokemon I want? That's a valid case, right? That's why I sort of am advocating for separating VGC from the games themselves. Instead of playing in the game, the Pokemon Company could release sort of a standalone app, maybe even make it free to play, remove all barriers to entry for users to play in VGC tournaments, right? Give us a separate app that's just for VGC, sort of the way that TCG has their own separate online battling game that they use. VGC could have something similar, and I think that not only could they have a much more stable meta because it wouldn't have to change every time a new game came out, but we'd have access to Pokemon that are not necessarily in the newer games. That's a big criticism that people have about the newer Pokemon games, is that not all of the Pokemon are in there, which means that we can't use them in VGC. But if we had a separate battling platform from the games, then Game Freak could continue not putting every single Pokemon in the newer games to reduce the workload on their developers, but we could still have those Pokemon in VGC because we're battling in a different platform. So that was just a quick expansion of what I talked about last week about Pokemon Showdown in VGC and sort of why it might be helpful to have something like that in the official VGC. I really want to know what y'all think, okay? I think that this is a really interesting idea that could generate a lot of super fun discussion. So let me know in the comments down below, what do you think? Did I say something that you disagree with? Do you agree with some of the things I said? Let me know. And as always, make sure that you like this video and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more like it. I'll see y'all later. Bye.